So Dana Altman has got his latest addition to the 2024-25 Oregon basketball roster. I'll get to that. Let's start with Jamari Phillips, because that's the guy's name. 6'3", 190-pound shooting guard from Glendale, Arizona. Because, I thought Oregon was done adding shooting guards when Raheem Moss came over from Toledo. They've added 2 more since then. I think there's a part of Dana Altman. This is not the thought I was alluding to earlier. I think there's a part of Dana Altman that wants to be utterly prepared for the wave of injuries that keep hitting his program year after year after year. He's ready. He's got a lot of guards and wings on this roster. I mean a lot. Phillips is a top 50, 55 player, depending on where you look in the 2024 cycle. So he'll be an incoming true freshman. He was committed to Arizona. And the scouting report on him, according to Adam Finkelstein of 24/7 Sports, said, quote, Jamari Phillips is one of the more naturally talented and versatile guards in the class. Dana Altman loves versatility. He's a tough shot maker who can make threes and pull-ups in bunches when he gets hot. He's built up his body to become a legitimate power guard. He's also capable of asserting himself on the defensive end of the floor, end quote. 6'3", 190 is not the bulkiest of individuals. I can tell that, in going from watching his sophomore year highlights to his junior and senior year highlights, he's definitely made himself bigger. I think he could still add another 10 to 15 pounds if he wants to, depending on the type of player that Oregon wants him to be. He's, I'd say, solidly athletic, not overly athletic. Kind of reminds me of Jordan Bell a little bit. Like, the athleticism is there. You see it, but it's not Kenny Wooten jumping off the page or the screen, I guess, because we're watching these guys on TV. But a couple of thoughts. He was committed to Arizona, and he'd signed with them. He got out of his national letter of intent because Arizona was able to get Caleb Love to return to the Wildcats as they go into the Big 12. And Caleb Love, as Oregon fans should know, is a really, really good basketball player. He lit up Oregon for over 30 in both regular season meetings, which were both wins, but then Oregon won when it counted in the Pac-12 tournament, made the run to the NCAA tournament. That was all fantastically great. When Caleb Love decided to return, Jamari Phillips requested to be released from his national letter of intent, which he had signed back in November, and then committed to Oregon. So the reason I bring that up is that's a curious sequence of events. To come to a guard-loaded, wing-loaded team as a guard/wing when you decide not to go to the previous school you were committed to because you're worried about playing time, it's odd. It's odd because if you were to go through every roster in the Big Ten, I'd have to imagine, and he had offers from several other schools, I have to imagine there are other places that weren't already looking 3 deep at the 2-guard position. Because I don't know where he slots in the depth chart. I really don't. Because the Caleb Love returning that makes him decommit factor makes me think he's expecting to play as a true freshman. But where are his minutes coming from? There is no way. I think Phillips is a talented player. He's a talented player. I'll get to my comparison for him in just a moment. I do not see him coming in and being a starter over TJ Bamba at the shooting guard position. Certainly not. And Raheem Moss came in from Toledo. Phillips hasn't played a single minute of college basketball, and Moss has. And he's been very good. First team All-MAC, and that guy can bring it at both ends of the floor. I don't know. I don't know. It could be a philosophical change for Dana Altman that he's trying to play smaller, kind of a 4-out, 1 big sort of look. And so to do that, you need a bunch of athletic and decently sized guards, especially to complement Shellstat. I mean, Shellstat's tiny. Like, he gets beat a little bit defensively. He's also super active because he's just lightning quick, but he's not the greatest defender in the world. And maybe Phillips is a guy they see as, being able to get out there on the court and, help out a little bit at that end. He's just 6'3", but, Kuznar was 6'4", and Kuznar was a big defensive presence. But remember, they also brought in Des Lindsey from the JUCO ranks. Dana loves his JUCO guys. So you've got 4 shooting guards essentially now. That's a lot. That's a lot. And by the way, Keyshawn Barthelemy is probably your backup point guard, but he can come in and play the shooting guard as well if you wanted to have a really small backcourt. I mean, that would be the smallest lineup Oregon could put on the floor, would have those 2 guys in it. Barthelmy's 5'11", Shellstad's, I think he's listed at 6 foot. That's generous. Like, neither one of those guys is very big when you put them on a college basketball floor. So, I think getting more talent, there's no bad thing, right? I mean, the comparison football-wise would be Oregon secondary. Did they need to bring in Cam Alexander from UTSA? No. But he's an all-American conference caliber corner. If you can bring him in, yeah, it's fantastic. Like, you got a guy who could start on a number of other teams as a rotation player. Okay, that's great. That's last time I checked what all the great teams have. I mean, look at Gonzaga for basketball, just as a great example of how they have guys that sit on their bench that become stars in like 2 to 3 years. Or Umar Ballo at Gonzaga, wasn't doing anything, wasn't playing a lot, goes to Arizona with Tommy Lloyd as assistant, boom, all-conference player immediately. So I'm curious about that. My comp for him when I watch his highlight reel is Tyler Dorsey. 3-level scorer, solid athleticism, really easy, clean shooting motion. And like that's just kind of who he reminded me of from an Oregon standpoint. Now he's a little bit shorter than Dorsey was, who was 6'5", and Phillips is 6'3". Oregon had the scholarship room though, and then they could still get N'Faly Dante back. We don't know. I don't know what the NCAA is doing. No one ever knows what the NCAA is doing. But I wasn't expecting the move. I talked about it last week. Oregon had him on campus for an official visit, and then he committed. And I said, okay, adding another body in there. Maybe this is just a small ball approach. Maybe they're only ever going to play a center on the court when it's Nate Biddle, and they feel like KJ Evans can play the 5 a good amount, and if Dante comes back, then they just kind of rotate those 3 and play matchups. I don't know. I think there are a lot of different ways they could go. The second thought I have on this is, remember when Dana Altman was getting calls from Oregon fans to retire? That was a good one. Now, okay, like to be fair, if you were someone, and I'm not going to, call you out publicly or anything, but if you're someone who felt that way, I understand. It was a thought that I had. But then as the season went on, before they made the NCAA tournament, I was leaning towards, and ultimately like 90% committed on, yeah, I think they should keep him. I think he can still do it. He can still do this. This was not a guy who had this is a borderline 5-star recruit. His composite rating on 24/7 is like 98.4 or somewhere in that range. It is very high. Arizona, big time program. Tommy Lloyd, you say whatever you want about their postseason success. Arizona basketball is big time. They're in the Big 12. That's the best basketball conference in the country. He was going to play there, and he's going to come play at Oregon instead. So Dane Altman, this offseason, man, has just, I don't know how personal it feels to him. I'm just saying he has the right for it to feel that way because he faced questions about it. It wasn't just internet people commenting or sending angry messages to me or the Odds and Audibles podcast or wherever. No, there were people asking him questions at media availabilities in which, he was having to talk about the prospect of retiring. Would he move on? Would he stay at Oregon? Can he still do it? Yeah, he can still do this. He can still do this. He's still respected. He can still coach. He can still recruit. He's showcased all that. So just another weapon in the tool bag, and we'll see how much Phillips plays. We'll see how much he plays. I don't know if there's a lot of playing time available for him, but certainly Dana Altman just continues to make me just chuckle. Like, that guy's like 70 years old, still getting it done. Here's a thought on LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality candidates that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're hiring in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Over 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring for good reason. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.